Okay, hello everyone, welcome. We're excited to have you with us tonight for our pre-law at Syracuse session. My name is Kate Domagal. I'm an assistant director in our Office of Admissions here at Syracuse University. Again, thrilled that you're joining us tonight to learn more about pre-law opportunities here on our campus. Before we get started, just a couple of quick announcements. First, if you brought any questions with you or any questions come up for you during tonight's session, please feel free to type those at any point into the Q&A box. We'll be keeping an eye on that throughout the session. And we're also going to save some time to answer questions live at the end of tonight's information. I'm joined tonight by several panelists. So thank you all for your time. The first are Laura McArdle and Rachel Vines, advisors in our Office of Pre-Law Advising, who are going to spend the bulk of the time tonight telling you about their awesome opportunities the office offers. I'm also joined by Rachel Dubois, Director of Undergraduate Recruitment in our Whitman School of Management, and alum/student Chris, who's going to be speaking with you also. He is a student, he's a 1L right now and did our 3+3 Whitman and law program here at Syracuse, which we'll be talking more about tonight as well. So thank you all again for joining us. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the Q&A box. At this time, I'm going to turn the mic over to Laura and Rachel to kick us off. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. And it's very exciting to be here with you all tonight. As far as pre-law advising, Laura McArdle and myself are the two pre-law advisors for the institution. And a little bit about what we're going to be doing tonight. We're going to talk about some of the services that our office provides. And as far as our office, we actually provide advising to undergraduate students throughout the institution, as well as alumni. And for today's presentation, what we're going to be doing is talking about just generalized fit with law, because the way we see it is you're here for a reason. There's something that drives you here, and law touches so many different things. That fit can look so many different ways. And so exploring what that looks like for you is typically just highly personal. And that can be done in a variety of ways. Some of the ways that we're going to touch on tonight are through coursework, what that looks like, as well as how to build your resume, getting some of the experiential learning opportunities to see what law looks like, how it moves and breathes, and how you jive with it. Within those opportunities, there are some excellent networking opportunities here at Syracuse University. And talking with faculty or supervisors, building those relationships throughout your time at Syracuse University is one way of not only learning about the field, learning how to articulate yourself, and it's a networking opportunity, but it also helps cultivate some of those letters of recommendation that you're ultimately going to be using. And so now I'm going to hand it over to Laura.
Thank you, Rachel. So as far as coursework and majors related to pursuing a legal education following graduation from Syracuse University, we, as Rachel mentioned, we work with students across the university. So we work with students regardless of major, regardless of home college, because as our slide highlights, there's no major specifically required for law school, which is a wonderful thing about potentially being pre-law and being interested in pursuing a legal education. Law school admissions are often looking to fill their classrooms with students from a variety of diverse disciplines to bring different perspectives to the classroom. So when Rachel and I do our advising of students interested in attending law school, we really emphasize not to think, what am I supposed to do if I'm interested in a legal education, but what am I specifically interested in, and lean deeply into that, because there's not a cookie cutter necessarily experience that you need to have in order to attend law school. So when considering majors and minors at Syracuse, think specifically about the fusion of your abilities and skills and strengths and interests, and then lean into those specifically. We will talk about other ways to explore the law. Naturally, you want to explore that in a firm if that's something that you're interested in, if you're considering law school. But as mentioned, that can come from a variety of disciplines. And your coursework will also give you the opportunity to explore if there are sub-specific areas and concentrations of law that you're interested in. So there are no prerequisite course requirements, as I already mentioned, but we certainly encourage students to find ways to get close to and experience the law in a variety of ways. We'll talk about different opportunities to do that, but courses with legal content are naturally some of those ways to. It's one thing to think, okay, I think I want to go to law school, but how about spend a full semester deep diving into content and decide even throughout that, are you still interested? Is it your favorite class? Is it really piquing your curiosity? So there's a number of courses that we sometimes recommend, but there's other experiential type things that can allow you to experience law and legal content to help with that as well. We also encourage developing certain skills and knowledge that Rachel will talk a little bit more about. But the American Bar Association has a great resource related to pre-law and outlines topics and skills that Rachel will discuss that are important for pursuing a legal education. So again, not necessarily all law classes all the time, but what are the things and the skills and knowledge areas that are important for then entering your legal education, and what will help you feel well equipped to start that time. I'll hand it back to Rachel.
Thank you, Laura. So Laura had mentioned some of the skills that are exercised, and whenever it comes to skills, these are things that you can develop during your time as an undergraduate student. These are things that can be explored, honed, cultivated throughout your entire time here and in a variety of disciplines. The skills that we have on this slide are taken directly from the American Bar Association, who has identified these primary skills as used in law school as well as by practicing lawyers. And so these are the skills that are also many of the skills you can also find, like the critical analytical reasoning, you can find on the Lsat as well. The exposure to law is something that Laura was mentioning through academic coursework. It's also something where you don't necessarily have to have a legal internship in order to go to law school. We hear that time and time again. And sometimes whenever you're looking for opportunities, you'll find that they're only open to like law students. And so it's, how do I move forward with that? Exposure to the law can look so many ways. And I know that I keep saying that because it's so true. I mean, one of the things that I just love citing is Professor Bybee, who has a joint appointment with the Syracuse Law as well as Maxwell. Whenever I was hearing him speak, he was talking about anything touches the law, the fire hydrant outside, the tree in your front yard. These all touch law. And so exposure to law, the entry point in thinking about it is what interests you. It could be a certain form of advocacy. It could be some kind of policy. It could be something not related to that at all. It could be in the hard sciences. It could be something regarding patent law. It could be, the list goes on and on. And so exposure to law could directly be like looking to intern at a law firm. However, in an internship, likely there is a legal aspect to it. And so within that experiential learning piece, you can find law just about anywhere. Within coursework at Syracuse University, there are some very overt ways to find law and content in that. We have LLA 201, Elements of Law, which is just an overt way to explore law. We also have political science courses like Constitutional Law 1 and 2. We have a logic course in philosophy. So a lot of different opportunities, but exposure to law in general. What is it? What does it look like? Is it like I see on TV? Is it different? We see students explore this in a variety of ways. The skills like critical reading, writing, being able to articulate yourself in a written and oral fashion. These are important ways, and we hear so many times, it's so important to be able to write well, because that's going to be part of what you do as a lawyer. And so cultivating that can be done through African American studies courses, can be done through an anthropology course, can be done by a research paper in your chemistry class. And so learning how to synthesize information, read through, find the bottom line. The oral communication also comes with listening. And so reading and synthesizing, and then its counterpart, and learning to listen to those. And you do that in class, you do that in listening to your other students, you do that within your community service. If you choose to do that through the Shaw Center, that's one of the great ways to connect. Research, I think that sometimes it's often easier to think about this in the hard sciences, which if that's your thing, go for it. If it's not your thing, research can be found in any discipline. You can find research in history. And so that deep dive into content, learning to investigate, putting things together, that's also going to provide that critical analytical piece that just matches together and would be used on the Lsat, as well as your legal education, and then ultimately as a lawyer. Organization management. So the law is a structure. And so being able to organize your thoughts is one of the things that you're going to directly learn in your undergraduate education. Even things that may seem small or sound small, like time management, that impact so much. Those are things that often students encounter in their undergraduate career and then can echo in larger ways. Public service and promotion of justice. And so I mentioned community service. It doesn't have to necessarily be like volunteering with a soup kitchen, but engaging with your community, giving back in the way that is fulfilling for you is going to be one of the ways of providing public service, engaging with public service, seeing what that looks like. Relationship building and collaboration. I mentioned several networking opportunities at Syracuse University. I know in the College of Arts and Sciences. So Laura and I serve the entire institution, but we're also, another hat, advisors in the College of Arts and Sciences in Maxwell. And so I know that Arts and Sciences at Maxwell has like the opportunity to have alumni conversations, and schools and colleges across campus have similar opportunities where you can talk with alumni, network with alumni. That's one of the ways, as well as working with your faculty members. Like I said, talking with other students, learning to articulate yourself, and then building those relationships. Background knowledge, that can be a counterpart to research, but also getting a little bit more information, which we also see some Lsat prep. We have some Lsat prep resources that we like to give students a taste of. And whenever we're sitting in on those, they're talking about how to dismantle a problem, background knowledge, doing that research, and then problem solving, which you can see throughout. The knowledge, so the direct knowledge you need whenever you go into law school. Laura mentioned it, and you don't need to have a specific major in order to go to law school. There are no specific courses you need to take. It's an undergraduate education. And so the law specific content is something that you can explore if it is of interest to you. It's not something that's necessary to go to law school. The knowledge that you're looking for ties directly to the skills. So a broad understanding of history, giving a context for where we currently sit in United States history. what it looks like now and the law that you're going to be exercising, but more of a broad understanding of it. Because whenever you go into your legal education, you're going to be learning the very specific ins and outs. The social, political, and economic cultural issues influenced in the development of US society it ties very much so with the history, giving an idea of where the US is, a temperature for the political climate. And then political thought, just some of the American political systems. Mathematical and financial skills, that goes to the organization in detail. And you don't necessarily have to take a calculus course in order to move forward with that. It's the ability to pay attention to detail in that organization that was just talked about within the skills. Understanding human behavior and social interactions, that's something that you're going to be doing throughout your whole time. And I know that I've mentioned it a few times now, like through networking, through talking with other students, learning to articulate yourself, seeing, you know, what that impact has on other people. And so learning a bit more about those interactions, because whenever you're practicing attorney, you're going to be working with people. And so knowing how to work with people and gaining insight through those learning opportunities in your undergraduate education is really going to shape that. As well as an understanding of diverse cultures within and beyond the United States, international institutions and issues, world events. And so even things like studying abroad, which I know that that can sound a little bit strange because you're going to be a practicing attorney in the United States. However, it's kind of like the water you swim in. And if you haven't had the opportunity to go to another country, immerse yourself in another culture, it can be a really powerful experience in getting an idea of other cultures, human behavior, as well as other legal systems. And it gives you perspective into our current legal system, or into the legal system that you would like to work with. And now I'm going to hand it over to Laura.
Thank you, Rachel. Also beautifully put. So I'll speak a little bit about some of the practical and experiential opportunities that you might pursue when exploring a legal education or a legal career. And this ties a little bit to a question that we got in the chat from Stephen. Do undergraduates typically go to law school or get jobs or internships after graduating? So I will speak to that as well. But just to kind of continue with what Rachel was saying, those experiential and out of the classroom opportunities, all of that is part of the package that you bring to a law school application. And so these are some of the experiences that we encourage or see our applicants typically taking advantage of. And as Rachel mentioned, study abroad is one of them for the reasons that she mentioned, whether that's to give you context to how the legal system that you're going to work within functions within the greater global context, or learning about legal systems to then shape your perspective for what you bring to your own practice. So studying abroad, and just for like the challenge that it brings for transitioning to a new and different place. There's just a variety of reasons to consider that experience. We also have a few domestic off-campus programs at Syracuse University. And one of them that's pretty popular among the students that Rachel and I work with is our Maxwell in Washington program. So this is a semester through Syracuse University, but a semester in Washington, DC. And during that program, students complete internships in a variety of places, whether it's a federal government agency, a nonprofit, a variety, depending on your interest and what you're looking to explore. So getting in those internship hours, and then in later afternoon and evening periods, taking classes at Center for Strategic and International Studies. It's a think tank in DC, and that's where our Maxwell DC program is housed. So it's your home base in DC while studying with Syracuse with Syracuse faculty and experiencing all that VC has to offer. Alumni networking, we've talked a lot about, but those conversations that we can help facilitate through our alumni connections programs and just other alumni that we're connected with through our roles, those alumni networking interviews and conversations can be just many experiences. So maybe I can't experience every aspect of the law or different concentrations of law necessarily in a given summer or even in a full undergraduate career, but conversations and insight from lawyers and those that have attended law school and gone in various directions, those conversations can be really enlightening as far as, oh, that sounds really appealing, or that doesn't sound like something I want to be doing. Maybe I would take a different angle. So we can't emphasize the alumni networking enough. And obviously the Syracuse University alumni base is robust. And we take full advantage of it in our roles and encourage that of our students as well. We also will talk about our pre-law programming a bit more, but we take advantage of our alums for that as well. So whether it's kind of structured coffee chats or alumni career panels during our law week programming, just can't say enough about the thousands of attorney alums that we have out of Syracuse. Immersion programs, so those look a little bit different in the last year and a half, 2 years due to COVID, but the university runs a number of immersion programs. Typically that means during traditional times, like maybe it's a 1 week immersion into a particular city or location where the university is overseeing your visit to various employer site visits and opportunities to connect with alums. Those are modeled in various ways now, but the connection and the opportunity and the learning is still there because we have such eager alumni and employers to work with our students. Job shadows, another way to really learn and experience what a day in the life might be like. So shorter term than an internship per se, but a connection with an alum or an attorney where you are at home, and we can help you strategize around that. Shadow an attorney for a period of time to see what that particular type of law is like and just what those experiences look like in a real world way. We certainly encourage undergraduate research too, so working with faculty and various aspects. We have a number of scholars and experts that focus on different aspects of the law or government, politics, management, any number of areas that can give you a taste into research. And research is a critical piece of being a lawyer. Research and writing, those are things that you really can't get enough of in college because it'll prepare you for law school as well as post and what that looks like. Volunteer work and internships for credit. So typically across the university, there's opportunities to gain internships for credit. Rachel and I work with students who often take advantage of one course that connects students with internship opportunities locally, where they can intern with our district attorney's office, our volunteer lawyers project of Onondaga County, among a variety of other legal, political, governmental type internships. And to speak to, we can go to the next slide and I'll speak to Stephen's question about jobs. I think the question is, which direction do people go? Meaning, do they typically get jobs first or go straight to law school? If that's not the question, feel free to correct me in the Q&A. We see both. So a lot of students want to go with the momentum of their education and move through and go right into law school. And we'll talk a little bit about that in this timeline slide. But we work with a lot of alums. I was engaging with, I think, 3 just today, who either take a year and maybe are working for that period, could be in a legal field or even getting experience outside of it, and then coming back and applying to law school. So we see an absolute mix of that. There's no right or wrong path. It's what's best for you. Some people want to break to get some experience before starting the rigor of law school, but others feel like it's a good fit to immediately go in and attend. So I'll let Rachel now speak to that application timeline that I just alluded to in a little bit more detail.
Thank you, Laura. And as far as the application timeline, I know that it can feel like, why are we already talking about this? The beginning of an undergraduate experience. And one of the reasons that it's helpful to talk about the application timeline right now is because it gives you context as to what it looks like moving forward. And I really like that Laura touched on the point that the experience is individualized, meaning that you can go straight into law school. And we do see, Laura was right, we see so many a variety of, like, some people rolling stone, let's go for it. Other people, I would like to take some time between. And so this timeline that we have up is if you are going straight from undergrad into law school. That's not the only way to go about it, but after giving context here, you can then apply that to future years. So if you're going to law school straight out of undergrad, one of the things that can be centralized is the actual application. So our suggestion is that you apply during the fall semester of your senior year, about a year before you hope to matriculate. If you look at application deadlines, you're probably going to see that they go into the spring. They may be rolling. There are a lot of different ways that they're phrased. However, our suggestion is what it is because the Credential Assembly Service, so we will go over this in more detail with individual advising appointments, but the Credential Assembly Service is the common application for law school, basically. It is found on lsac.org's website, so lsac.org. And the Credential Assembly Service, that's ultimately, you submit that. We're suggesting that you submit during the fall semester because Credential Assembly Service opens toward the beginning of that fall semester. And the hope is that you, number one, submit your best application, number one, but in the soonest possible time frame. And the reason for that is because schools still have their full range of seats and full range of funding. And so if you're already thinking about law school now, you can proactively plan. If you're looking to submit during the fall semester, so probably between Halloween and Thanksgiving is what we suggest. If it's not that, it's completely fine, but it's the overall suggestion. If you're looking at fall semester, then we suggest that you take your LSAT during the summer before your senior year. And then that would mean that you're looking into prep, the type of prep you want to do. You want to do self-guided, if you want to go with a company, probably during the spring of your junior year. It'll probably take at least a few months, roughly, of prep. And if you take it in the summer after your junior year, the hope is one good score. There's nothing to read into with that. However, if something happens and you decide to take it again, that you can address whatever happened through prep, you have a few months to retake the LSAT, to take the LSAT again. Schools will be able to see each score. However, this other attempt, the few months can be spent preparing and addressing what you hope to address. And so taking it over the summer gives you time and space to do that. We also do a lot of work around personal statements and talking about letters of recommendation and your resume. And so a personal statement is going to be more of what drives you, why you want to do this, and that can take a few drafts. It's something that we usually suggest that you put together during the semester in which you're applying, just because then you've had all of the experiences you will be having before you apply. The next part is going to be how this looks if you decide to take what's called a gap year. There was a time a few years ago where people called it like a glide year, but the idea is that it's an active year or years where you gain experience. You could expand your network. We also see people who decide to take the time to save up money. Law school is expensive, and we get that. And so it's about coming up with a plan that is the best fit for you. Laura just put it so beautifully in talking about like working with alumni. Something that I really appreciate about pre-law advising here at Syracuse University, we're not here to push you into it or out of it. We're here to walk with you. And if you're on the fence, if you're a strong maybe, that's okay. Like you don't have to be completely sold to work with us. I've definitely worked with undergraduate students as well as alumni who are all in, let's go, start to finish, or anything in between. Sometimes I've seen people who, nope, I found my passion is over here, and that's completely fine. It's about finding your fit. I also, and Lauren has as well, we both work with alumni who take some time between, come back, they're like, okay, I want to go to law school, and for whatever reason, they decide to keep going, or they decide not to go to law school at that time. It's flexible. And so it really is up to you and what's a best fit. And that time in between can be very active time in learning about you and learning about the field, solidifying your interest, building your network. And that resume that you're building beforehand is the same resume that you're going to bring into your ultimate career. And so that can be very active experience. Flip side of that, if you decide to go straight into law school after undergrad, it's not seen as bad doing that. Neither one is seen as like better, worse, bad, good. It's a holistic application process, meaning that they look at your entire application, where you're coming from, your experience prior. And if you're coming from undergrad, they know that you were a student, that you're coming directly from that student experience. And so they don't expect you to bring in a full career's worth of work. But gaining that experience can be helpful for the applicant because that helps you shape your idea of law, give you context of what it looks like, as well as possible fit. And so the more you move along within your undergraduate experience, we can walk with you and look into whichever way may be a fit.
Thanks, Rach. I'm going to answer a couple of the questions in the chat that came up specifically related to the Lsat, since we were just somewhat covering that timeline and that information. Stephanie asked if taking it before junior year is too early, as in will you have not covered enough information. I have probably only seen students take it as early as that spring junior year, and I've only seen that a handful of times. There's something about condensing the experience and the preparation and going with the momentum of that process and that preparation that we see as beneficial to students. Could you theoretically take it before? Certainly, but in general, you don't want to take it until you feel as equipped and ready as you can, since those scores remain for 5 years. And if you retake it, all of those scores during that period will be given. So it's more a question of readiness and what that means to you. But that timeline is generally what we've seen work relatively well. And then sometimes if you do need more time, I've seen students go through the process and decide, I'm gonna apply next cycle, and I'm gonna dedicate a little bit more time to prep and studying and see what that might look like. As far as, I think there was another question. Oh, standardized testing. If someone's not the best at standardized testing, would you recommend starting to study earlier? And studying timeline and methods are very unique to the individual applicant. We of course work with applicants on this process, but things you want to reflect on are just how you thrive and study in a normal context academically, and do you need the structure of a course? Certainly there's economic considerations too, because there's a spectrum as far as what LSAT prep can look like, from free to whatever you want to spend. But we have students that do any and all varieties and all that find, success in their own way and using the method that works for them. So yeah, I think it would be a little bit of a customized conversation, but just to keep that in mind, the how, reflecting on yourself and how you think you might learn the best. As far as majors, we mentioned students that work with pre-law advising come from all corners of the university, from political science, history, English, philosophy, to our School of Management, accounting, advertising, biology, sport management, food studies, literally across campus. Rachel and I work with students from all different disciplines. So as far as majors and minors outside of the field, since you can't get a law degree in undergrad by nature of design, people are all coming from outside the field. There are some that might align if you're interested more in like the government and politics route and using your law degree in that direction, then that may have you gravitate toward a particular major based on that. If you're interested in more corporate law, then certainly you're going to maybe gravitate to a particular major that aligns with that. But truly across campus, we work with students from all directions and alumni from all directions. And as far as the study abroad question, is there a particular program that is, I guess, better for pre-law? I wouldn't say so. I mean, we have world partner programs that can bring you all across the world. We have Strasbourg is a really cool program that has some potential built-in opportunities in with some interesting international organizations and some heavy political science type courses. But we have students go to London and Madrid and working with a student who's interested in our Central Europe program. So the experience itself is valuable, and I think can easily be leveraged in application. So there depends on your interests, but I think any and all would be valuable as far as your own perspective shaping as well as a future application. So as far as our advising services, so pre-law advising, Rachel and I run those services, and we work with students, whether it's the first weekend they're here, we typically do a presentation for incoming students to alumni that are several years out. But it's never too early to have the conversation, because we can talk about what that exploration of considering law school actually looks like for you as early as your first semester at Syracuse. We'll go through the application timeline. We talked about it, but it's helpful to orient that to your specific situation. Did you want to study abroad? How does that fit into the timeline? What can you explore as you're maybe building up towards certain core requirements of your program? And really, there's always something to talk about regardless of what stage you're at in your academic career. Lsat prep planning, as Rachel mentioned, we work with some test prep companies and typically offer multiple Lsat workshops over the course of any given semester for obviously the content that you can learn as a potential Lsat test taker, but also if you decide that you want to take an Lsat prep course, it gives you a flavor of the different prep strategies and instructors and various things out there. And then when it comes time for both an internship search, potential job search, but also the actual application time, which is always an exciting one, we work closely with students on developing and strengthening their resume. So it's in the perfect way that you want it for that application period, and then heavily in the personal statement process. So that can be, that's a lot to, not just multiple drafts, but oh my goodness, what do I want to say? Well, these are the, 2-ish pages where I can bring my application alive, show myself in a really unique way. What do I want to say? What have been impactful experiences for me thus far? What's maybe motivating me and sparking my interest to go in this direction of my career? So that's always a fun and interesting and slightly can be time-consuming process for the application process. Diversity statements are an optional component of a lot of law school applications. Similar, it's an additional essay that you can use to highlight your the diverse perspective and the intersection of your identities and what you're bringing to the potential law school classroom that you may be joining. And then such an exciting period for Rachel and I, the decision-making process. So we work with people and we go through a sort of the stress of the application process, and then get to enjoy the other side of it, which is when the offers come in and the decision that can be difficult, but is so exciting for us to see the students that we work with and getting to that stage of things. And that's about it. I think I'll hand it over to Kate, but certainly we'll continue to be here. So feel free to put additional questions in the chat if you should have any.
Yes, thank you, Rachel and Laura. I'm going to hand it over to Rachel from our Whitman School of Management. So I just wanted to echo first some of what Laura and Rachel shared, that at Syracuse, we are segmented at the undergraduate level into 10 undergraduate schools and colleges. So although the pre-law advising office is housed within our College of Arts and Sciences, it is open to all students across all of our 200 majors within those 10 schools and colleges. So Rachel DuBois has joined us. She's the Director of Undergraduate Recruitment in our Whitman School of Management to talk about our 3+3 Business and Law program. And Chris Salato, who I mentioned earlier too, and Chris, feel free to rejoin us when you're ready. They're gonna be able to answer some questions about this special program as well. So take it away.
All right, thank you, Kate, and thanks, Laura and Rachel. Learned a lot about pre-law advising, so that was helpful for me too. So as Kate said, I work in the School of Management on campus. We have 9 available business majors. So if any of you are considering studying business for your undergrad and still thinking law school is in your future, we do have a program that is an accelerated format for students to receive their bachelor's degree and their JD in a total of 6 years instead of the traditional 7 years. So as you probably know, traditionally college's undergraduate programs would be 4 years, and then a law program would be 3 years. So we are condensing the undergraduate years to 3, and then some of the courses from students' first year of law count as their senior year coursework, and then the bachelor's degree is awarded at the end of the student's 4th year or their first year of law. So a significant savings of both time and tuition money, receiving your degrees a year earlier and therefore out working 1 year sooner in the law field and whatever that might look like for you. And also saving tuition for that 1 year. So not paying for education for that year. And the law school has actually committed to a minimum of 50% off tuition for their law school. And actually, I should back up for a moment. The law program is the second 3 years of this 3+3 is right on campus at our College of Law, which is a beautiful not brand new, but fairly new building. And Chris will talk more about his experience there so far. And so the law school for the second 3 years will award students a minimum of 50% off tuition if they come through this pathway. So not only are you saving a year of tuition, but saving quite a bit for law school tuition as well. Oh no, did my video go? Okay, there I am. And then the last thing I'll say here is if you're in terms of admission. So it's not a direct admit program where students are admitted directly from high school to be on campus for this total of 6 years. There are 2 paths of entry into the program. One, students can receive a conditional admission by selecting pre-law on their common application. So there's a question that asks for your pre-professional advising program interest, and you would select pre-law there if interested. And then you could receive a letter from us saying that you're conditionally admitted into this track. You're not obligated to continue on for law school if you change your mind, but you are given guidelines of what GPA you need to achieve and what LSAT score you need to achieve as well. If you don't receive that letter, you get to campus and you decide you want to pursue this option and you're in Whitman, you can meet with your Whitman academic advisor and just let them know that you want to be on this pathway and on this track. And they will make sure to guide you with your coursework so that you're on the right track and getting the courses done that you need to get done. The only other thing to mention is the timeline is condensed. It's all pushed up a year. So everything that Laura and Rachel were saying about the timeline of applying to law school and the details of that, that's all pushed up 1 year sooner in this track. And happy to share more details about that if you have questions. And then of course, we assist students with that process during their first couple years. So at this point, I think it would be more valuable to hear our student talk than me to keep going on and on. So I'm going to have Chris share a little bit about his experience in his undergrad program, and then also now as he's in his 4th year, and what experiences he's had and how it's been.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. So I'm going to talk about from before I even got to school, but I won't take too long. So for me, I personally took the first route that Rachel was talking about. I personally expressed my interest into the 3+3 program when I was here on an admitted students tour. So I talked to the dean myself, expressed my interest, and I received the conditional admission letter. So with that, I had to basically keep a certain GPA, stay on track with my classes, and then get the median score on the LSAT for the Syracuse College of Law. And as long as I was able to do that, my seat would be held. So for me personally, it was good that I came in with a bunch of transfer credits from college courses that I took in high school. That definitely helped ease the workload for me. And I will say that, my advisor at Whitman was really helpful with setting my schedule of classes. I would meet with her starting my sophomore year, and she laid out basically every semester up until the end of my junior year where I would be applying to law school. So she was really helpful with keeping me on track and letting me know, if I was falling behind or if I was ahead on, course load. So I will say, being part of the accelerated program is obviously, a very, good achievement. But, when you're in class, your first semester, I was in class with other freshmen first semesters, taking the intro and core Whitman classes, which is the business school. But then the second semester came around and, I was taking advanced classes. So I wasn't really around people my age, which kind of forced me to, expand my horizons, reach out and kind of expand my network socially and professionally, which obviously is never a bad thing. So it definitely helps accelerate that progress. And, I mentioned about the workload. It was a little easier for me, but I'll talk about my roommate's experience now, who he actually did the second route that Rachel was talking about, but I'll get to that in a moment. So for me, I was able to get involved on campus, and even though there was a lot of work to get done, within that 3 years, I still had a lot of time to do things that I was interested in and take time for myself. I joined a fraternity my freshman year. I joined investment club. I did intramural flag football. So there's definitely time to do what you like. I wouldn't really stress about that right now. So now I will talk about my roommate's, situation now. So I started rooming with him my freshman year at Syracuse. And I told him about this program I was in and the conditional admission. And he, was interested in doing this program as well. So he took the second route, expressed his interest. I want to say at the end of the first semester here. And the advisors, again, were really helpful for him. And then they scheduled his semesters basically for him. And he did have to do a little more work, but for him, during the junior year, that was probably his busiest year, the year going into the law school, but it's definitely doable. You're still able to have fun and take time to relax and then, do the things you want to. So we basically took two paths, but, I'm still rooming with him 4 years later. So two paths to the same place. As far as the application process, the advisors, at least in Whitman, weren't as engaged in, but they were still helpful. They told me when I should be applying by, when I should probably take the Lsat and study for it. So they were helpful with that, but actually, the application process, you have to take responsibility and do that for yourself, which seems daunting, but I forgot who mentioned the LSAC website. It lays out basically every step for you. So if you go on there and follow it, you'll be all right. Personally, I studied and took the LSAT the summer going into my junior year. So I guess my sophomore year spring is when I started studying, and then I took the LSAT that summer. So I actually, it was during quarantine, so I really had nothing else to do other than to eat, sleep, and study, which kind of, was to my benefit. But I took it once in June, got my score, and I was able to get in, but I wanted to kind of push myself and to do better so that I could get better financial aid, which is never a bad thing. And I was able to take it again in July, and I did better. I know somebody mentioned earlier that it's probably not always the best to take it twice if you don't have to. For me, I knew that I could do better, and luckily, I kind of earned a better grade. But my roommate with the 3-and-3 program, he actually took the LSAT twice, but once during his junior fall and once during his junior spring. So again, two different paths, but he did the application, and we're at the same place now. In regard to, I guess, the other steps of the application process, like getting your letters of recommendation, requesting your transcripts. Like I said, on the website, it makes it really easy. And for me, I think letters of recommendation, you should obviously, ask a professor that you feel like you had a good relationship with, that you hold in high regard. And usually if you go up to somebody like that, they won't say no. And then, I was accepted, I guess, end of February. I submitted my application December-ish. So 2 months later, I was accepted. And as far as the transition goes, I had an internship this past summer. So I was kind of focused on that. The stress of, going to law school wasn't really on my mind. And my internship ended 2 days before I moved into law school here. So it ended on a Friday and I started on Monday. So I really had no break. I didn't really know if I was going to be able to do the workload, because I'm sure, you all know that, you'll watch YouTube videos or hear people talking about law school, and it's obviously a lot of work. And, I was kind of doubting myself, but, if you're here for a reason, you're in this meeting for a reason, you're interested and you could do it. So, you'll be able to get it done if you put your mind to it. The transition really hasn't been as bad as, I thought it would be. There's a lot of hype around it. It is hard. It is a lot of work, but you'll be able to get it done. If I can, you guys can, I promise you. And I guess with that, if anybody doesn't have any questions, it kind of sums up my personal story.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris and Rachel. That was super helpful. I'm so glad we could have your perspective. And I didn't know your roommate also did the 3+3. So that's such a cool story. Next time we'll have to get you both on the session. We did have a question come in from Sophia, and Sophia wanted to know, Chris, what made you want to do the accelerated program versus going like the traditional 4 years and then the 3 years of law school?
Yeah, so my mom is a lawyer. She has her own practice, and so I knew I wanted to do law. So when I was applying to colleges, my mom I didn't even know about an accelerated program, but my mom knew I was interested in law. So she kind of did a little research for me and first brought up the idea to me that these even exist. That kind of played in part in where I applied to college. I applied to a few schools that had this accelerated program. And I think personally, it's very beneficial if you have the opportunity to, be accepted into this program or even just express interest. I think it's really helpful. I don't want to say it makes the whole process easier, but when you put in your application and they see that you're in this accelerated program, they know you're dedicated, they know you'll put in the work. So your application goes a little higher on their table, I would say. So I definitely thought this was an opportunity I couldn't really turn down.
Awesome. And a follow-up here, did you think taking the accelerated program took anything away from your undergraduate experience?
That's a great question. So for me personally, the first 3 years, I don't think it took anything away. Now I'm in law school, and a lot of my friends that I made are seniors still. So in that, in this situation, it kind of does, because senior year in college, a lot of people have a lot of free time. I am the exact opposite of that. So it's a little tough seeing them, but you're putting in the work now so that you're in a better position for the future. You just got to keep telling yourself that, and it'll work out.
Awesome, thank you. And then Rachel and Laura, if anyone has any last parting words, please feel free to jump on and do that. I'll also point out, while people are turning their cameras on, all of our contact information is on the screen. So if you have any questions after tonight's session, please don't hesitate to reach out either to our Office of Admissions, and we can always direct your question if you're not sure who to ask, or directly to our pre-law advising, or to Whitman if you have a specific question about the 3+3 program. Any last words of wisdom?
I will say, I could drop my email in the chat. If anybody has questions they were kind of afraid to ask here, or come up later. So I'll do that now.
Thank you, Chris. That's awesome.
And I just want to echo what Chris said, because our alumni connections, and even the Syracuse University culture, speaking more widely and with pre-law, there's a want to help and give back, just like I see Chris doing right now. And we're here to help regardless. And I think Chris said it beautifully, like two different people who are on pretty much the same journey, taking different ways. And that's pre-law. Like, it's your own specific journey, and we're here to walk with you through it.
Excellent. Well, thank you all again for being with us tonight. Again, questions, reach out to us. We're happy to help you. Please feel free to check out the rest of our virtual sessions that we're offering on our website. Tons of those and virtual sample classes coming up the rest of this fall and into the winter. And with that, I'll say thank you again, and go Orange. Take care, everyone.